You can click on start the task and it's in progress. And if you want to take a break during completion of the task, you can click on the pause button here, which will automatically add a break to the breaks database, and it will set the task to be in break. And after some time you have completed the break and you want to continue with the task, you can click on continue here, which will automatically find the breaks database that was added, set it to completed, and it will set the task back to in progress. And after you complete the task, you can click on complete and it will automatically complete the task. So let's see how we can build that. First, we need to have the databases like this. We can have a profile database, which is basically like a summary database. And after that, we need the task database and the breaks database to calculate the pause timings and to exclude that from the task timings. So once you have created these databases here, let's create the properties for each of these databases. So in the task database, we'll be first adding the date property. So let's call it start date, and this is going to be a date property. And likewise, you can also have an end date or end time property. Let's call it end date, and it's going to be a date property. This is actually start time, so let's edit that to time, and this is going to be end time. So once you have the start time and end time properties, you can use these properties to calculate the amount of minutes spent on the task. And after this, you need to add a button to start the task and stop the task. So let's add a button for that, and let's call this button start. After that, we need to add another button. Let's call that complete. So if we click this button, it's going to complete the task. So we have added the basic properties that is required. So one of the most important properties here is we need to add the status property. So we can have the status values as default. So there will be not started, in progress, and done. So let's add some task pages here. Or let's add some more pages. Let's call this task 1, task 2, and task 3. So these are the tasks that we are having. Now when you click the start button here, we want the status to be updated to be in progress and update the start time with the time. So let's configure the button property here. So let's click on the start button and let's go to edit automation, and it will show a page like this, and in this you can click new action, and in that we need to edit a property in this page. So click on edit property and you want to edit the status to be in progress. So that is the first thing we want to do, and after that we also want to edit the start time property. So let's click on start time here, and if you click on select, there will be two options, which is time triggered and date triggered. So we want the time triggered, so let's click on time triggered. So this will enter the time when you started the task, and let's click on save here. So now when you click on start, it's going to update the status to in progress and the start time will automatically enter. That is how you create the start button. Similarly, let's configure the complete button also, so that when we are completing the button, so it needs to change the status to completed and enter the end time. So click on the button property and edit automation. So in that you can add a new action for edit property, and edit property status to be marked as done, and after that you also want to edit the end time property, which is going to be time triggered again. So let's click on save, and after that if you click on complete button here, which will automatically update the task to done and enter the end time automatically. So this is how you can create the basic functionality for the task database, so it will automatically start and complete. Now the next thing that we want to do is, if we want to add the breaks properties, we want another button called the pause button, and after that we also want to know how much time we have spent between the start time and end time for the task, and we want to show that in minutes. So let's create those functionalities. So first let's create the number of minutes between the start time and end time. So let's create a formula for that. So let's click on this add property button here, and we can add a formula property for that. So in this formula property, let's call total minutes. And in this property, we want to find difference between the end time and the start time and display the difference in minutes. So there is a built-in function for this in Notion, that is the date between function. So date between function takes two arguments. So it takes the first date and second date, and it finds difference between the two dates with the given argument here. So there can be several arguments. It can be years, quarters, months, weeks, days, hours, or even minutes. So we want minutes, so we can type minutes there. So let's take the end time first. So the greater time should be in the first argument, and after that the smaller time, so that the first date minus the second date would give you a positive number. So let's take the greater time, it's going to be the end time. So it takes the difference between the end time and the start time, and we need to give the difference in minutes. So let's type in minutes here. So as you can see, it is showing the number of minutes between the start time and the end time. So this is the value that we needed. So let's click Control Enter and it saves that. So that is the total minutes value. So let's go to the next one. So next one is we want to add a pause button. So when you click on the pause button, it needs to temporarily pause the task. So let's add another status value also. We need to mark the task to be in break or something like that, and it also stops the start time. So let's see how we can do that. So let's add a new status value here. So edit property, let's add a new status. So in progress, you can add another status here. So you can click on this plus icon here, you can just click on that and add a new value here. So let's call that in break. So in break, we can put that in another color. So let's select yellow here. So that is new status. So this task can actually be in break. You can click on in break, and yeah, that is the new status that we have added. So now it's currently completed. So we can just leave that like that. Now we want to add a new button. So let's click on add property and add a new button, and we can call this button pause here. So when we click this pause button, we need to do two things here. So first we need to update the status value here to in break, and then we also want to do another thing. So this thing should allow us to create some kind of a log so that we can exclude that time from the total minutes. So for that, that is why we're having a new database here. This is called the breaks database. So far we have not discussed about that. So here's the time to discuss about it. So this is the breaks database. So when you're clicking this pause button here, we need to add a new break. So which is going to be a new page in the breaks database. So which is going to have several properties like the start time of the break and the end time of the break. And you can also have the total minutes of the break so that when you're calculating the total minutes, you can exclude that value here. So let's configure the breaks database before we kind of configure this button here. So in this breaks database, we want to add some properties here. So let's add start time, end time, and then total minutes property. So let's add the start time here. So let's add the date property and let's call it start time. And you can just duplicate this property here and you can call that end time. After that, you can also have a formula property to show how many minutes are taken in the break. Let's add a formula property for that. And let's call this total minutes. And the formula is also similar to how it is in task database. Since we are having the same property names, you can just copy paste the formula from the task database in the breaks database. So let's click on the total minutes formula here. So let's select that, let's copy that and click on the property here and go to edit property and edit formula. So inside that, we can paste this formula here and this is going to give us the total minutes for the break. So now let's get into the pause button here. So before that, we need to do important thing. We need to relate these two databases, so which means that the task should know that what are the breaks that are taken for this task. So let's create a relation property for that. So this relation property is going to be linked to the breaks database. So let's search for the breaks database here. This is the breaks database that we're currently working on. And let's call this database, this property break or breaks. So this is related to the breaks database and can have any number of break pages for the task. After that, this is a two-way relation. So this is the property name that will be shown in the breaks database. We want it to be shown as task. It should be in singular form because every break can have exactly one task. So let's add relation here. Let's configure this property here. So let's click on the task property and edit property. And in edit, you can see the limit is currently no limit, but the breaks database, the breaks page can have only one task. So let's select one page limit. So once we have created these properties here, the next thing, let's configure the pause button here. So now the pause button has everything it requires to be completed. So let's click on the pause button and let's click on edit automation. So first thing that we want to do is we want to set the status property. So let's click on edit property and edit the status property to in break. The second thing is we want to add a new page to the breaks database. So let's click on add action. Instead that, you can find add page to. So you can click on add page to and select the breaks database. So you can see the breaks database is shown here. You can click on that and by default it will show only the name property. So you can select any name. So you can give a dynamic name, something like break taken when completing the task name. So let's type something like that and you can select the task name by using this page. So this page means the task page and you're asking the name of the task and it will show something like this. So break taken when completing the task's name. So that is the name property. So after that, we want to edit the start time of the property. So it is going to be the time triggered. So when we are clicking the pause button, that is when we want to start the break time. And after that, this is the most important thing. So this is the task relation here that we added. So in this task relation, we want to select as this page. So this is what will enable us to get the breaks for the task in the task formula so that we can exclude that in the total minutes calculation. That is what we want to do after adding a page to the breaks database. And let's click on save and let's see how this pause button is working. So let's click on pause here. So it's already completed. So let's start a new task and you can click on pause now. And as you can see, it is changed the status to in break and it's also added a new break page here. So the name is also added automatically, which is break taken when completing task 2. And after that, the start time is also automatically entered and the task relation is also automatically entered. So now this is how you can set breaks when you are completing a task. And after this, we want to complete the break. So we have two options here. The first option is we can create a button in the breaks to click on completed. So it will be automatically set to complete, or we can create a button in the task database. So we can see both of the variations. So let's first see how we can add the button in the breaks database. So let's click on the new property and let's add a button property for that. And this button, let's call it done. So when the break is done, you just click on this one. And this property should essentially do two things. So the first thing is it needs to edit the parent task or the task selected in the relation property. It needs to edit that page. It needs to set the property to in progress and should also update the end time to the time when it is clicked. So that is the two things that the button needs to do. So let's click on the done button and click on edit automation. And in this new action, the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to create a new variable. So this variable is going to tell us what is the parent task. So we are basically asking the break to give us the parent task. So let's name it first. Let's call it task A page to edit. So let's click on edit as formula here, and it will open the formula editor. So in this we need to take the break page. So we're asking the break page to give its task a property. So this gives us a list of blocks, which means it gives a list of pages that is selected in the relation property. We only want the first task or the only task in the list. So let's use the add function here. So add gives us the nth value. So from a list of number of pages, it gives us a specific page, so which is the first page or the add page. Since we have selected only one page allowed in the relation property, it's going to have only one page in the list. So we're getting that specific page from the list, and this gives us the task page that we want to edit. So let's click on save here, and once we have the task page to edit, next thing we want to do is add action, and we want to edit the page. So let's click on edit pages in, and here when you click on data source, you can see that it will show the task page to edit. The variable that we created also will be shown here. You can click on this task page to edit, and you can edit a property in that page. So let's click on edit a property, and we want to edit the status of the task page, and we want to set it to in progress. And after that, we also want to do one more thing, so which is set the current break page end time. So we want to edit a property of this page, so we want to click on edit property, and end time is set to time triggered. So this will set the end time and also update the task page status. Let's click on save here, and if you click done now, you can see that this task 2 will be completed to in progress, and the end time will also be set automatically. So let's see if it works. Let's click on the done button here, and as you can see, it is the task button is status is automatically getting updated to in progress, and the end time is also set to current time it was clicked. So that is the end time. So the next thing that we want to do here is we want to exclude the total number of breaks in the total minutes. So before we kind of do that, instead of adding the done button here, you can also add a complete or continue button in the task database, so that you don't have to search the break page to click on done. So let's add the button here in the task database. So in this button, you're going to be calling it as continue. So let's click on the continue button here and edit automation. The first thing that we want to do is we want to edit the status property. So let's edit the status property to in progress. Next thing is we want to find the break page that we want to edit. Now, unlike in the breaks database, the break solution here, it's not only one page, it has all the breaks that has already been completed. So in that break, we need to find the first uncompleted or break that is in progress, and then we want to update that to be completed. You can click on save for now here, and let's add a status property in the break database so that we know the status of the current breaks. You can leave the values as default, so it has the values that is required, not started, in progress, and done. So when it is started, it will be in progress, and in this continue button we want to filter all of the breaks which is in progress. So the one thing we need to change is in the pause button, we need to also edit one more property here. So let's click on edit automation. Here, let's set the status property to be in progress. So let's click on save here, and let's edit the status property here. The default value is going to be in progress. That's not going to be a break which is not started. So let's set the in progress as default. And if you click the done button here, and it will be set to completed, or you can click the continue button here, which will be creating to set the break to be completed. So let's continue with continue button here, and let's edit automation. So similar to the done button, let's add a new variable. So let's click on the add action, and after that we can select define variables, and let's call this break page to edit. So we need to find the break page which we want to edit. So let's click on edit as formula, and it will show the editor here. So let's get all of the break pages that we are having. So let's call this page. So this page is nothing but the task page, and we're asking it to give all of the break pages that it's having. So this gives a list of all the breaks that is being added in this task, which also includes the completed breaks and the in progress breaks, but we only want what are the breaks that is in progress. For that, we're going to use the filter function. Filter basically takes a list and it checks for a condition. So for each item in the list, it asks a question, and if the answer for the question is true, it takes that item, otherwise it does not take that. So we're going to take the current thing. So current gives us the current item in the list. This current item here is a break page. We're asking the status property of the break page, and we're asking whether its status is equal to in progress, and only if the status property of the break page is in progress, we're taking that into the list. So now we have an updated list, which is going to be the list of only break pages which are in progress. Now here status currently is a mix of uppercase and lowercase, so we want to normalize that, make all of them into lowercase so that we can compare that much more easily, and it's much more error free. So let's add the lower function for that. The lower function converts every letter to the lowercase. So now this filter function returns the list of break pages which is in progress. Now out of this list of breaks which are in progress, we need to take the first value in that list. So let's take the add function. So what if there are many break pages that are in progress? So you have clicked pause button already and you forgot that to complete the previous break. And now you're clicking the pause button again, and now you have two breaks that are in progress for the same task. In that case, we only want to edit the latest break that was started. So before using the add function, let's sort the values by the time here. So now we are using another function which is going to be sort. So sort takes the list and it sorts based on some property of the current item. So let's use the current. Current gives us the current break page, and we're going to ask the current page to give its start time property. So start time gives us when was it started. So basically the sort by default sorts the list in ascending order, which means the break that was started first will be at the first place. The break that was started after that, or the latest break, will be in the last place. So let's call the reverse function so that the last added break is in the first. So you can just imagine a list and it is sorted in ascending order, so 1 2 3, and if you reverse the list, 3 2 1, so the last page will come to the first place and the entire thing will be in reverse. So now the last or the latest break that was added will be in the first of the list. So out of this list, we want to take the first value. We're going to use the add function for that, and we're going to click on add, and we can take the first value out of this list. Now this is going to give us a page which is going to be a break page, which is going to be in progress and the latest added break. And now we can click on Control Enter and save this. Now this is going to give us a break page that we want to edit. So let's add another action. So let's add an action and select edit pages in. And when you click on edit pages, inside that you can select the data source. In that, when you click on this drop down, you can select the break page to edit, and you can edit the break page. So you want the end time to be time when it was clicked, so we can click on time triggered. Now after that, we also want the status of the break to be set to completed. So let's click on done here, and every other property is already set. So these are the actions that we want to do when you click on continue button. So let's click on save here, and that is how you can add the continue button in the task database. So these are the two ways of doing the same thing. So you can click on the continue button in the task page, or you can click on the done button in the breaks page as you require. So let's see if this is working. So let's add another break for the task 2. So let's click on pause, and it will be adding another break for the page here. This break status is not updated, so since it's already completed, the end time is already there. Let's set it to done. So this is the page that is added. So when we click on continue here, so this page should be set to run and the end time should be entered, and this should be set to be in progress. So let's see if it's working. Let's click on continue here, and as you can see, the latest break that was added for task 2 is automatically set to done and the end time is entered, and the task status is also set to in progress. So as you can see, there were two breaks for the same task, which is task 2, but it found the correct break that needs to be updated and it updated the break page here. So that is how we can click the continue button. So now let's continue with our workflow, which is finding the total minutes. So if you complete the task here, let's click on complete here. So as you can see, it is showing 16 minutes, which is the difference between the end time and the start time. But between this end time and start time, there is two breaks that has been taken. But this break time, that is it, this total minutes is not been included or excluded in this minutes here. So we want to minus these 2 minutes that were taken as breaks, and we want to only show the number of total minutes that was spent on this task, excluding the breaks. So let's click on the total minutes formula here. So currently it is taking the date between the start time and the end time. So out of this time, it needs to minus the time that was spent on breaks. So let's use the let's function for that. So let's function allows us to create variables. So you can call some names for the values that you are creating. So first value that we want is the total minutes. So the total minutes is going to be this value here, date between the end time and the start time in minutes. Now after this, we want to find what is the break minutes. So let's create a break minutes, and for now let's give it as 0 for now. So after that, we can edit the value to get the actual break minutes, and finally we want the let function to return total minutes minus break minutes. So this will give us the total minutes that we want to be shown for the task, that is the total minutes that was actually spent on the task. So we're going to take each of the breaks, and for each of these break page, we're going to ask the break page to give its total minutes. So let's use the map function for that. So let's add a command here. For each of the break in the list, we're asking the break to give its total time. So let's take the current. It's the current keyword here, which gives the current item on the list, which is a break page, and we're asking the break page to give us the total time for the break. So now we are having the total time in place of the break page. Now we have a list of numbers, which is the total minutes for each of the break, and after that we want to use the sum function to get the total of the numbers in the list. So it's going to give us the sum, and now we have the total number of break minutes. So let's click on Control Enter. So if this is not done yet, so let's say if it is in progress, and let's say this task was completed just now, so let's set it to completed right now. So as you can see, the total number of minutes that was taken is 13 minutes. So total minutes would be somewhere around 20 minutes, because as you can see, 6:57 to 17 is like 20 minutes, and we have taken a break of 7 minutes for the task, and the total number of minutes spent on the task actually completing the task is only 13 minutes. So it's showing 13 minutes here. So that is how we can create the total minutes here. Now there is one more thing that we can do here. We want to summarize the tasks in the project database. Now let's set this to be project. Let's call this project, and in the project database, we want to show how many minutes has been spent on completing the tasks today. So let's add a new property for that. It's going to be formula property, In this property, let's call it total minutes today, or let's just call it total minutes. So that is total minutes. It's going to be showing the total minutes for each of the tasks here. One important thing here is you need to select the project page here. Let's click on that, and after that we need to select this project one here, and let's copy paste to the other databases here. So instead of doing this manually, you can add a button here called add task, and it will automatically set the project database. Let's add that button here. So let's click on button, and you can click on the button and click on edit automation, new action, and configure the button here. And you want to add a page to the task database. So let's click on task database here. You can set the name empty here, so you can open the page after it's added so that you can edit the details. So after that, let's click on the edit property. So the important thing here is the project relation here. We can set that to this page, and you can add another action to open the page that is just added. So let's click on open page action here, and you can select the page to be the page added to the task database, and that you can click on save here. So now you can click on add task here, and automatically adds a task to the task database, and it opens the page here. You can call this task 4. And as you can see, the task 4 page is added, and the projects relation here is automatically created here. And after that, you can configure the properties as you require. So now let's see how we can add the total minutes property here so that it shows a summary of all of the tasks or the number of minutes spent on the project. So let's take the task relation here. So this gives us a list of all of the tasks in the project. As you can see, it is showing all of the tasks in the project. And for each of the tasks, we are going to ask the task to give us the total minutes. So let's get the current item in the list, which is going to be the task page. And we are asking the task to give its total minutes property. Each of the tasks in the list gives the total minutes it has. And now it's a list of numbers. You can click on debug mode to see it's a list of numbers here. And we want the sum of these numbers. So let's click on sum here. And now it gives us the sum of total minutes that was spent on the project's tasks. So you can click on control enter now. And as you can see, it is showing the number of minutes spent on all of the tasks for the project. So as you can see, here is 13 and 1 minute, and it's showing the sum of 13 and 1, which is 14 minutes here. So that is how you can summarize the total time spent on all of the tasks. So the thing that you saw in this video is how we can add the start and pause button. So this is going to be really helpful for you. So if you're starting a task, you can click on start, and after some time you take a break, and you can click on pause here. Automatically updates the in break here, and automatically creates a break page here. And after that, after some time, you kind of complete the break and you want to continue with the task. You can click on continue here or click on the done button in the break page that is added. So you can click on the continue button in the task here, and it automatically completes the break that you have taken, and it automatically updates task status to in progress, and it also sets the end time for the break. And after you have completed the task, you can click on the complete button here and automatically completes the task. It sets the end time property and also sets the status property to done. So that is how you can create the task database. As the title says, that is how you can create the start, stop, and pause button for the task database in Notion. So that is how you can create that. And one important thing here is you can add as many breaks as you want. So if you're clicking the continue button here, it will automatically find the latest break that is being added, and it will set that to complete, and it will automatically be taken there. And in this total minutes here, it will automatically exclude the break minutes that is being taken for the task. So that is how you can create the task database here. So hopefully you found this video helpful and you learned something in this video. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.